We're talking about land use in Oregon and more specifically in Klamath County, starting right now. Hi there. Land use in Oregon is a very complex topic. There's tons and tons of resources out there about this, but we're going to do like a 1,000-foot overview, bird's eye of how the land use and why it's so difficult to navigate is such a challenging topic in Klamath County. So we're going to try to stay here, but if we're going to have some departures and off ramps and stuff during this, so stick with me. There's a lot to unpack here. So in the 1970s, Governor Tom McCall and a couple other legislators started an initiative to eliminate urban sprawl. They were championing causes and initiatives and legislation to eliminate what was happening on the East Coast, where it was like city going into some suburbia and then rolling into the next city and a little bit of suburbia and rolling into the next city. And to prevent that from happening and protect the natural beauty and the agricultural aspects and the farms and the forests and all this stuff of Oregon, they wanted to eliminate urban sprawl. And specifically, Tom McCall's quote was to eliminate sagebrush subdivisions, coastal condominium, and the ravenous rampages of suburbia. I had to write it down to make sure I got it right. So when they got Senate Bill 100 passed, it was not mandated for the counties or the cities to adopt this, but what they did have to do was to have a comprehensive land use plan that was in accordance with Senate Bill 100. So all of the cities and counties developed their land use goals. They had statewide planning regarding, land use and zoning and all that sort of thing. So, and they had to submit that and get it approved, and it was obviously a very complex process. And what was kind of ironic about this was this whole Oregon land use plan was going to be the nationwide model for how land use planning should be done, and all of the states were going to adopt this because this was so groundbreaking and it was so controversial that no other area adopted this. Oregon did it, thinking that they were like, nobody adopted the Oregon land use plan, and we're going to get to why. So all of the counties had to develop code about various goals, and the goals were about, I think there's 20 of them, where it's about land use and ag and urbanization and housing. But the one that's really important is, especially in Klamath County, is Goal 5, which Goal 5 is about open spaces, scenic historical areas, and natural resource preservation, which is basically Klamath County. So when we're talking about Goal 5 has a bunch of what they call wildlife overlays. So when you go to the county with your plan, what you want to do with your land, when you've bought a big chunk of land out in Klamath County and you could take it to the county and you say, oh, it's zoned for this and I can do whatever I think I'm going to do on it. Not so fast, you might not be. Because especially with certain zoning, that's why when people call me or they email me and say, hey, I've got 160 acres of dirt out in Bly and I want to do this on it, it's zoned that, and I'm like, no, you might not be doing that, and this is why. So certain zonings in Klamath County are also affected by wildlife overlays. So they have a 640 acre template that they plop down on a map, and if there's a certain number of buildings in that zoning, nothing else is getting built there. You can have 160 acres in Klamath County, and if it's zoned forestry, non-resource something, you might not be building anything there. And it's a really tough conversation to have with some of y'all when you call me and say, I've got 160 acres out in, wherever in the pucker brush, zoned forestry, and I want to put, a hunting cabin on it and be able to run out there with my kids on their quads, and because this is another thing. So when you have 160 acres in Klamath County, you get landowner preferences hunting tags. I don't hunt because I haven't lost anything, but this is a big deal to some people where you get landowner preference to get to draw for your hunting tags. Departure. So some people have bought a cheap chunk of 160 acres and have held on to it for a long time because they got their landowner preference tags, and then now they want to build something on it. And I'm like, oh, not so fast. You need to go down in planning. The upside of Klamath County planning right now is, for a long time, we had a crew down there that got their yah-yahs out of telling people no. And that's just the way it was. You walk down there with your deed and your plat map and your plan of what you wanted to do, and the default answer was no. Nope, can't do that. The crew that's down there now, the staff at planning right now, much better. They want to work with you. They want to let you do with your land what you want to be able to do, and they want to try to figure it out where you can, have your house or your whatever you're going to build out there, and they want to make it happen. That's the upside. So the other aspect of this, and there's a ton of information about this too, is when they implemented all these rules with Senate Bill 100, the urban growth boundary was an unintended consequence which cities like Bend are paying the price for. Everybody had to draw an urban growth boundary around their city. There are ways to work around it with annexation and the land use appeals board and LUBA and those sorts of things. There's ways that can be worked around it to some degree, but it seems like Bend makes the headlines all the time about how they are trying to establish another maybe 100 acres of housing, and then there's some opposition from some group or some organization that opposes urban sprawl and doesn't want Bend to expand. I mean, I think Bend is the poster child for how bad this situation has gotten, and I don't know that I have seen any other city that's having the huge issues with the urban growth boundary, the UGB, like Bend is, because Bend's basically out of land. They've built everything that they can build out that's practical to build out, and there's some areas that they wanted to expand to and go through this appeals process and see if they could get more expansion of the urban growth boundary, and then, like I said, there's some opposition from some group or some organization, and then it doesn't happen. And so this has been an ongoing thing in Bend for a decade. So when you have let's get back to Klamath County. That's Deschutes. That's North here. Let's get back to Klamath County. So when you were talking about the urban growth boundary in Klamath County, it has been an issue for some development. There was one organization, one guy specifically, that was trying to put something just outside the urban growth boundary, and he went to great lengths to try to make that happen, and it didn't happen. So the appeals process is in play. It's available to try to work around some of these land use issues in Oregon, but very difficult and very expensive to navigate. Obviously, you need a lot of assistance from an attorney or a legal team, or probably a few different aspects to try to make this come together for you. But what you're zoned for, if you're in a Goal 5 overlay or some sort of other wildlife overlay, or and make sure that you know what you're buying before you write the check, because those people aren't going to disclose that, and that they're landlocked. Oh my gosh, so many people think that because this property that they're looking at is landlocked, oh, it'll be fine. I can get access to it. I've looked at some of the land that y'all have bought, and there's 25-30 parcels between the nearest actual road, because if you look at it on a Google map, it looks like there might be a trail or something that goes to your property, and you think it's a road. No, it's like a quad path, or it's where the elk walk or something. And people buy these landlocked parcels from these companies and these websites that don't disclose that they're landlocked. If you didn't ask the question, they're not going to tell you, and they might not even know if it's landlocked or not. They're looking at the same thing you did. A lot of these people have never seen this dirt that they're offering on the internet. So you buy a landlocked parcel, there's nothing you can do with it. You can't get to it unless you're going to approach 20, 25, 30 owners that by the closest real road to get to your property. There's a lot of that in Klamath County. Y'all be careful with that. Yep, because unless you got a helicopter, I don't know how you're getting to some of that land, because some of it, I just had this happen to me recently, where somebody contacted me and said, hey, I want to sell this, and I started looking at it, and why did you buy this? How did you end up with this? I knew exactly where it was, but it was out in the middle of nowhere. There's no roads out there. Oh, we just saw that, we thought it was really pretty. Okay, it was really pretty. Okay, so that departure. So those are the things that you need to be really super cognizant of. What's your zone for? Is it landlocked? Can you even get to it? And are you in a wildlife overlay? And I get a lot of questions about tiny houses. Yes, you can have tiny houses in Klamath County. The vast majority of Klamath County. There's always exceptions. Again, check with planning. The other question I get a lot is long-term camping. They want to bring their RV onto their land and basically live in it, homestead out of it. Can't do that. 21-day camping rule in Klamath County, and they're getting pretty serious about it. So, and that's generally like a complaint-driven system. So if you have an RV and you're living on it and your neighbors don't want to look at your RV anymore, they're going to report you and you're going to have to move it. And you can't just move it 6 feet and get another 21 days. No, off the property. So, and the other thing about that, and I get this question quite a bit, is can I live in my RV while I'm building? Yes, as long as you're making substantive improvement to the land. You're not just building some post and pier foundation and then sitting on it for 18 months before you start getting sticks in the air. As long as you're making progress, you can live in your RV, but you have to be making progress. You can't just throw a couple nails in this day. Oh, I'm making progress. No, they're going to have to see that you're actually making progress. Like, they can look at it and go, okay, yeah, you've been working on it. So when you're looking at a piece of dirt out in the Klamath County somewhere and you call me and you're like, I want to buy this, but I don't know if I can do what I want to do. I don't know either, because like I said, what is it zoned for? Is it landlocked? Is it in a wildlife overlay? Is it in a Goal 5 overlay? You need to go to planning and find these things out, know what you're buying, make sure you're buying it from somebody reputable, and then you can go forth. And I know why y'all are looking at land in Klamath County, because our land is cheap. Klamath County is 6,000 square miles. Klamath County is bigger than Rhode Island. Just Klamath County is bigger than Rhode Island. It's about the size of Connecticut. And we're a huge county and we have a lot of cheap dirt. And so all of y'all that want to homestead somewhere and you see that you can buy 10 acres of land for $10,000, you're like, yeah, sign me up. Is it out in the SICAN unit where you're 2 hours from town? Do you want to be that far out? Because there's a whole lot of nothing out there. I just answered a question for somebody the other day on SICAN unit. It's out there, and you can look at the plat map and it shows that these roads are platted, and I haven't been out there just to wander around in a few years, but a lot of those roads have gone back to nature. That subdivision was built many moons ago, decades ago, and a lot of those roads have gone back to nature. There are a few roads that still exist and you can kind of find your way along some of it, but some of that you're going to have a cat and a lot of help to get the road cleared again so you can get back there. So just be careful what you're buying. Just be careful out there, people. I don't want to have a conversation with you where you bought something that you can't do anything more with, and then you send me out to look at it and I tell you it's worth like a third of what you paid for it because you didn't know what you were buying. I don't want to have that conversation with you. I really don't. Thanks for joining me.